All right, today we're going to be doing some troubleshooting on the Apollo 7700 atomizer gun, John. And, this has actually happened to me before. And, you have your fan control ring right here. Did I call it what it's supposed to be called?
That is correct.
And so this is what controls your fan, that widens the fan or narrows it. And this, it should actually, if it's functioning right, it should be kind of not super tight, but it should be.
You want a little resistance on it.
Little resistance, and it'll move back and forth smooth. You can see there's no resistance. It kind of wobbles a little bit. That's a problem. Something's not put together right. And once again, it's happened to me before. Could you show our viewers what's actually going on here? It's something very simple.
Yes.
And you can show us how to correct that problem.
Very simple. Most of the issues that happen with the 7700 gun are usually a result of putting one of the parts in backwards. This is no different. So this fan control ring here, the tension on the ring is actually governed by a gasket that sits right behind the nozzle here. So if I remove the nozzle, and inside the air distributor is this gasket here. And this is a very common problem that we get. This gasket has been put in upside down. And the ways that I can tell that is because the ring was so loose, right? So if I take my gun tool here and I use the flat edge, and you probably can't see this in the video, but on the gasket, there's actually a thin side of the gasket.
To a point?
Comes to a point, right? And then there's like a flat side, which is actually squared off, right? So there's two parts in our gun that are like this and very similar, and both parts go into this gun the same way. So in this case, we had the gasket in upside down, which meant that the thin side was facing up and the larger side was down inside the distributor. And we actually want it the opposite way. So when I put this gasket back in, I'm going to put the thin side in first. So I like to think of thin to win.
Thin to win.
Or
thin side down.
Or the point is kind of an arrow pointing into the gun.
Right.
So that's another way to remember. And then all you want to do is just kind of take your fingers and just push it down flush. Right.
So it should be flush with this metal point
with the face of the air distributor.
So you don't want to press it in with any tools down in there deep.
Nope, just with your fingers, just so that it's flush, right?
Right.
Because what's going to happen is when I put the nozzle back in and the nozzle pulls this all together, it's actually going to pull that gasket down into the air distributor and seat it properly so that it puts the right tension on this. So you remember when before we took the gun apart, it was really sloppy loose, right? So now that we flip that back and reset it, I can put the gun back together again. And if you're putting it together like this, where you're putting the nozzle in and you still have the needle in the gun, then always make sure you pull the needle back, because you don't want to put the nozzle in with any resistance from the needle. It'll damage the needle. And then once I've got it in there, we only need to just snug the nozzle up. We don't need to crank on it. So just finger tight and then snug it. And then now you can see there's a much difference in the way the fan control ring feels. So we've got the right amount of tension on it now.
So now I got that smooth resistance, just like it felt, when I originally bought the gun. Now, I used to take this tool and I would take this and I would tighten it up, and I would tighten it up till all of a sudden I kind of felt it just stop, and it felt like it was like metal to metal, so it's got pretty tight. What you're saying is that's too tight, or that's not right.
It's not necessary. The way we machine the nozzle and the inside of the nozzle tube, the back of the nozzle has a little chamfer on it, and that chamfer matches the chamfer inside the nozzle tube. And because they're machined to such precision, they fit together perfectly. You don't need to. I can actually put this nozzle in the gun, finger tight, and it will not leak.
Right.
So you don't need to tighten it up at all.
So I think, when I was talking to you about this, and one thing I just did right there, I didn't pull the trigger back. So you want to actually pull the trigger back.
Always pull the trigger back, or I just remove the needle usually from the gun.
Yeah, removing the needle is actually the best and safest way to do it. What happens, say, if somebody was removing the gasket, or they dropped the gasket in the grass and it disappeared? Can you purchase new gaskets and replace them?
Through Paint Life Supply.
Okay. So they are replaceable. So
every
if you damage it, every gasket in the gun.
Every gasket, every part in our gun is replaceable.
Okay.
There's really not anything that can be damaged that much that we can't replace it or repair it.
So there you go, troubleshooting the fan control ring. It's all functioning properly and working out on the Atomizer 7700 gun. Thank you, John. If you guys got any questions or comments about this or the gun, leave it down in the comment section below. We would appreciate it. Thank you very much for being right here on Paint Life TV. Out.